everyone, and welcome to Season 4, Episode 4 of The Hive, Creating College and Career Pathways in Esports and Gaming with Joanie Kraut. The Hive is brought to you by the Esports College and Career Pathways, where our mission is to expand access and opportunities and provide a clear path forward for young adults to reach their potential. We focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we want to extend a huge thank you to our sponsors, The Game Hers, ESTV, and NFL alumni. I am back again. I am your host for this evening. Y'all can call me M. This season, we're going to be focusing on a lot of amazing topics. You've probably seen some of our shows before. We've had an amazing series of discussions so far. And oh my God, it's almost February, isn't it? January has completely flown by, and we've still got so many great episodes in store for y'all. But tonight, I want to go ahead and introduce my co-host, which is Sam Diamond. Sam, welcome back again. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Em. It's always great to be here. This guest is really awesome. I'm really happy that she was able to join us today. It's just so many awesome topics that we have in store today. So I really want to get into it. Um, yeah, I'd like to welcome Joanie too.
Speaking of our amazing, awesome, awe-inspiring guest, let's go ahead and welcome Joanie Kraut. She is the CEO of Women in Games International, as well as serves on several boards. We are super lucky to have her as our special guest tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, Joanie.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. I'm going to do a wonderful introduction for you. So, intro part 2, we're going to hype up Joanie before jumping into some questions. Let's start with talking about the various boards that you are a part of and they're so lucky to have you serve on them. So just to name some of them, you are a part of Tech Bridge Girls, ESI Clutch, Queerty Gamers, Mobile Growth Association, and the California State University East Bay Big Data Certification Program. Woo! For over 15 years, Joanie has operated in the tech and gaming space within different verticals throughout her career. Her expertise resides in business development, financial strategy, and DEI initiatives. Joanie, you embody everything that we Hive are passionate about, and we cannot wait to be able to get into some really great questions and have an awesome discussion with you.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's go ahead and kick things off with question number 1. Discussing your current role as CEO of WIGS. So, can you tell us a little bit about the organization and why did you decide to start this program?
So, WIGI is Women in Games International. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we've been around since 2005. We started off as a panel at GDC at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, and it was really just creating this opportunity to highlight and amplify the voices of women in the games industry. I took over as CEO about 3 years ago now, and I've really just been trying to sort of find new ways to explore ways that we can get more women in the industry, more ways to highlight the ones who are already here and making that difference. So it's really a focus on the retention, the advancement, and then getting more people in those doors. So the biggest focus is on the video games, esports, and tabletop industries. And we have over 90 programs, workshops, and panels for professional development, confidence building, and mentorship programs.
Nice. So you all have so many amazing opportunities and resources that you provide to folks who are not only interested in what you're doing, but want to be able to participate, take part, expand their careers, and be able to give back as well, which is so important about keeping that mission going forward. So let's see, you've been in tech and gaming for over 15 years. At that time, gaming in particular was not as popular and accepted as it is today. Gaming has blown up so much in the last decade alone. How did you get your start in this field?
That's so true. So I actually kind of accidentally fell into gaming. I started in tech, so I actually started in finance, and then from finance, I was working between finance and IT departments. So I sort of fell accidentally into tech, and then working through tech, I sort of accidentally fell into gaming. And so it's been a journey, for sure. I started at working as a consultant to help migrate data and systems for finance and accounting, working a lot with IT. And so then I sort of got pulled into different tech companies and tech roles for that. And then in working with tech companies, I got pulled into the idea of gaming and technology. So SteelSeries was my first gaming job, and we were working to make peripherals for esports professionals. So headsets, mice, keyboards, and they were working with the esports teams to really develop the mice that would respond the fastest, and the headset where you could hear it over the crowd and you could actually hear your team and you could hear all the sounds you needed to hear within the game. They were also developing eye tracking technology so that you could help train your team better and kind of see where your eye movement was working. And so there's a lot of really cool opportunities to work with esports teams, work with people who were really into technology, and finding those ways to kind of gamify working in that way. I also worked at Motorola, where I worked with a lot of gaming pros, where they were in the games industry, and then they kind of moved into that tech field. So there was a lot of that sort of that collaboration and that opportunity to learn from people who had already been in that field. And then from there, I was working with people who were starting their own companies, who were interested in trying to find ways to monetize, and who were setting up companies who needed support with their finances or with data analysis and trying to find ways into new markets. And so it was a passion project. There was a lot of side projects. There's a lot of consulting and advising, and it was just a really fun, exciting thing. There's definitely a lot of teamwork and camaraderie and just community that came with the games industry, as well as just sort of that feeling of like work hard, play hard. You got the opportunity to actually test the game as you were working on it and test the product as you were working on it. So it was that fun that was really drawing and appealing to be in the games industry.
Hey, do you mind if I take the next question?
Yeah, of course. Go for it.
Yeah, so I come from the esports industry a little bit, so this kind of question is near and dear to me. When we talk about esports or gaming, most people only think of professional players or professional coaches, the visible. What are opportunities have you seen outside or inside gaming for yourself?
Absolutely. So that's such a huge thing, and I think you hit the nail on the head with I would love to be in esports, but there's no way I'm good enough to be a pro player. And there's so many other opportunities. So one of the biggest things that I've been doing is working with colleges and universities to really define that curriculum and work towards showing those other opportunities. So we have different esports labs, and we have different curriculum and just sort of seeing the behind the scenes. So showing the marketing side of having an esports tournament. Running the production of an esports tournament is huge. It's not just one person running a camera or one person in a back room. There's usually 3 to 4 layers of people shoutcasting or the analysis of the actual the gameplay. Even owning a team. There's so many different pathways into the esports industry. A lot of girls, when we first meet with them, we talk about being in the video game industry, and the first thing they say is, "I don't know how to code," or "I'm not sure if I would be able to code." There's so many more jobs in gaming. Everything from a lawyer to accounting. Accounting was my first in the games industry. So like you can be a nerd and be in the games industry. And then there's everything from even character design to level design to thinking up the story and creating the map and creating that in-depth trajectory of a one character or of a storyline. And so there's so many different pieces and aspects and opportunities. And so when we specifically talk about esports, that's been kind of the biggest draw, specifically for high school and college students. Bubba's doing some great work over at Varsity Esports Foundation, finding scholarships to actually help get more kids into college off of esports scholarships as well. So we're finding these programs and pathways into esports from college, and we're creating these opportunities to see that behind the scenes and running an actual full tournament. We even have people designing the jersey for the teams. There's just so many extra pathways that people aren't fully realizing or fully understanding. And it's been a really cool experience to kind of see that all come together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, someone who personally has no coding experience. I had to think about it for a second, just like, do I have coding experience? Just like, no. There are so many opportunities that I've had the chance to be a part of just by volunteering or putting myself forward, or even just, being mentioned by someone who I met who was a friend who knew someone who was looking for somebody else. So there's plenty of opportunities out there to get your start and get involved. And sometimes you have to approach it from sort of like, it's like in Mario Kart where you have that like opportunity to get ahead and you have to take like the little mushroom jump or the little speed boost off to the side. You just got to take that little speed boost on the side ramp there, and the next thing you know, you're back on track.
I love that analogy. Absolutely.
I can't code, but I'm very good at Mario Kart. So let's see. Going into our next question, what role do you see higher education in the gaming and esports space? Since we're seeing so many things like scholarships, esports programs for students from high school into college, and even esports management academic programs starting to crop up in colleges as well. Where do you think academics is going to start playing a role in the next few years?
There are entire conferences now, and it's amazing to see the trajectory that's happening right now. Education conferences just focused on academia and esports and academia and opportunities, and just it's kind of amazing the investment that's going into it right now, and it's creating this pipeline and these pathways. One of the biggest things for me personally, I came from just not having much growing up. And so if we needed to use the computer, we had to go to the library, the local library. And it's creating this opportunity for kids from underserved communities to have a space to go and find a computer and use that computer. It's creating this access to technology that never used to exist, because it's not just the library computer with the dial-up speed internet. It's a gaming pro setup, and it's an opportunity to experience, even just networking one of those computers, or finding ways to kind of to use that asset, but also to explore how different it is to use those types of peripherals, and how that there's an advantage there. So again, it's not just the pro route, but it's the opportunity to learn about and to understand and to create this curriculum around business analysis and opportunities to explore economics, international economics for esports. It's t-shirt companies, and there's so many different pathways into the games industry, and there's so many different avenues to supporting esports in particular, and these different brands and these new collaborations that are constantly coming out. So there's been a huge opportunity. One of the biggest things that we're seeing is, the only pushback we're getting is, okay, but if you go through and I get my degree in international economics and esports, and then it doesn't pan out, or I choose to not go into esports, what do I do with it? It's the same thing as if you went in for basketball. It's learning that camaraderie. It's learning that teamwork. It's learning the curriculum. It's learning those assets and those skills that you can then take with you to that next job. And so it's creating this curriculum that kids are interested in, that they want to pursue. I don't know about you guys, when I went to college, I was pretty much told to put down the controller and focus on school. And so it's creating that, love what you do mentality. As you're doing your schoolwork, you're actually really enjoying it and you're really interested in it. And it's creating that passion for your job and for your work. And so we're seeing a lot of people that are actually more interested. We're seeing, a higher interest and a higher completion rate. And so it's creating that love of what you do, and that passion. So there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of everything from fashion to analysis to marketing. And then, as we talked about too, programming, obviously there's a lot of IT that goes into that technical support for esports productions, for tournaments, for live streams, as well as for virtual productions. And then, the gear that goes into a tournament. And if you guys have been to a live tournament, having all of those machines set up, as well as the shoutcasting box and the production of actually having the cameras and all of the different angles and everything as well. So the curriculum is developing, the interest is there, and it's growing, and it's coming from everywhere now. It's not just one specific geographic area. It's, kids from everywhere that want to be part of this and want to be part of this movement and want to have a college degree in it. And one of the biggest things we're seeing is, somebody from an underserved community, or specifically from a more conservative cultural background, if you try and tell your parents that you are the epic master of marketing, the parents going to be like, get a real job. But if you can say, I have my master's degree in international economics for esports and in business management, and you have a real title and a real degree, that's something that your family can also support and your community can get behind. And so it's also creating that legitimacy and that professionalism for the community. And so it's really been helping build the legitimacy of the esports industry as well.
I would just like to comment on putting the controller down in college. I did not do that. In fact, with my
Neither.
very first paycheck for the on-campus job that I had, I got a PlayStation. So like that was the first thing on my list. I
Nice.
didn't go get groceries. I didn't have no milk. I got a PlayStation. I had everything I need. Probably not the best recommendation, but if you feel like that's something that you need to be able to pursue, find out different resources. Like you mentioned, there are different resources at universities who are willing and able and really want to support you in your endeavors. So if your college campus maybe doesn't even have like an esports team, I can bet you can find like 6 people on your college campus who just really, really, really want to go at it for Apex Legends. You can find them. They're there. For our next question, so this actually relates a little bit to parents, like we mentioned, on wanting to make sure that their kids are, on the right path, being able to support themselves and be independent. So a lot of parents do have concerns about toxicity of gamers. Do you see this as a real concern? And if yes, what is the one thing that each of us can do better to make the environment more supportive?
So, as a parent of 3 kids, I definitely am concerned about toxicity. And it's, everything from my 16-year-old to my 7-year-old. There's that concern that both they're going to be part of it, and that concern that they're going to experience it. And so, one of the things that as parents we can definitely do is be more involved and make sure that it's not your kid who's part of it, and teach them also that actionable allyship and how to stand up when they see it and how to respond. And that's something my 16-year-old is really good at. Is when he sees it, he can turn it into a joke to make it stop. So kind of like, whoa, buddy, like calm down, and kind of make everybody laugh and sort of ease into making it go away. And then, also teaches that person how to better deal with and communicate and manage the situation themselves. And so there's definitely that emotional intelligence that we need to bring to the table. And when we talk to our kids and we really have those conversations with him, like, hey, how did the gameplay go? How is everything happening? When he's on mic, it's in an area that we can hear the interactions and make sure that we can at least hear his side of what's happening. With my 7-year-old, we just kind of make sure that he's not on mic at this point. So we've been able to protect him in a bubble. I know that's going to change very soon. And he's very interested. He actually just came home from school today letting me know that he can actually play online with his friend from school, which I knew, but I didn't know he knew. So I definitely think having those open communications, and then also just making sure that, our kids are the ones that are kind of combating it and combating it in a fun way, and also in a way that does kind of make it stop. We also do have a lot of conversations about keeping that open. So if something does happen, let me know. So I can help, and if I can help, however that looks. My 16-year-old also does know how to open a ticket and report it as well. So just creating that environment that you want to see and that you want them to be part of is definitely huge. We also play with them a lot just so we can kind of see who they're interacting with and how they're interacting, just to make sure it's what we want to see online as well. So being part of that, I think, is the biggest thing we can all do.
Do you mind if I touch on that topic a little bit
Yeah.
more? What, if anything, would you like to see from companies in the near future as actions to combat toxicity, as a parent and also an individual in the industry that has been pushing it forward for equality and equity?
I think so such a good question. I started in esports with CS:GO, and it was toxic, but it was always kind of that conversation like, yeah, it's toxic, it's gaming, and it's an esport. Like that was just part of it. And we thought that was just kind of how it was. And then Valorant happened, and it shifted, and it was a different environment, and it was a different conversation, and people would actually stop the toxicity from happening. And it's interesting to see how many people sort of shifted from CS:GO to Valorant because Valorant created this safer space. Granted, they had the opportunity to do that because it was a brand new space with new ideas and new opportunities and new ways to help. But I think one of the things that they did that was really powerful was they had that reporting system, but they had those standards of codes and codes of conduct. And so they set those parameters and they created those boundaries. And if you went outside of those boundaries, they had repercussions for those actions. And so it was an opportunity to set the tone of, hey, that's not acceptable, and then have somebody say, well, how can you possibly say that's not acceptable? It's in the rules. Like, it's not acceptable. And then if somebody pushed back, you could open a ticket and they could get booted. And they actually had that actionable boot. And I think that was the biggest thing from my perspective. Obviously, it's all still, figuring out in his community. There's a lot of money that goes into those support people to help make sure those tickets are real, to make sure that, the ones that are being opened are legitimate and that the boots are warranted. So I know there's a lot that goes into that, but having that opportunity for that actionable, you know, reporting and reprimanding system has been a really, really powerful tool that we've seen in a lot of different games, everything from Roblox to Valorant to I'm totally losing the name of the other one. But there's definitely a lot of games that have been using that. And it's been useful. It's been making that difference for sure.
And can I ask one more follow-up? Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
taking over.
absolutely.
It's just an interesting
Please.
topic. Um, when it comes to, I was, full admission, not a huge ally for people, and I was definitely the toxic gamer for a little bit of time out of high school. I think the biggest thing for me was to have the integration as much as possible and contact with people of LGBTQIA plus, which now part of the community of. I find it amazing without that contact that it. I don't think I would have been able to be as open as I am now. Do you think that there's ways we can properly integrate all these parties together and not have a toxic environment? Because I do think that contact at least helped me, and I know it helped a lot of other people find themselves, find other people, support, be an ally. I think that's probably the best way of saying it.
Absolutely. So we always say we are the largest professional group of women, femme-identifying, non-binary, and allies in gaming. And those allies are incredibly important to us. We don't want to be sexist against men. We want to be true equality for everyone. And bringing those allies to the table is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And having a cis white male stand up and say the same thing that I just said sometimes echoes more than when I just say it. So first of all, thank you for being an ally. I'm very excited. Even if you relate to the party, that's fine. We appreciate that you're here. And I hear that a lot too about I want to be an ally. I don't know how to do it. I want to be an ally. I don't know what to do. What if this situation happens? What do I say? And that's definitely something that we really incorporate within our programming at Wiggy is actionable allyship. And a lot of it is that emotional intelligence of when do you stand up? How do you say something? Who do you say it to? Saying something to an individual behind closed doors, like, wow, that should not have happened, is actually not as supportive as you think. Because seeing it in front of the other person saying, hey, that's not cool, that's not okay, is actually a lot more powerful for the person that is happening to. So having those opportunities to speak out and to normalize behavior, I absolutely believe that we can all come together. Now, there are bad people in the world. There are people who just want to see it burn, and I get that. Naively, I definitely came into Wiggy like, people just don't know, and we just need to tell them. And we just need to tell them that we're here, and we'll all be best friends. And we've definitely encountered some really negative reactions and interactions, and it is what it is, and we have to kind of continue to move forward. There are definitely trolls on the internet, but I would say 9 out of 10 times when you're in a room and you're having those interactions, it's very different. It's a very positive experience. And so it's unfortunate when it's gaming and it's a virtual space and people feel like they can hide behind their monitors. But yes, I do believe that we can definitely all come together in a safe space to have those conversations, to game together and just have fun. So yeah, thank you for being an ally, though. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciated all of those questions, Sam. I think they were great
Yeah, I'm
and
sorry I
led
took it over.
into. Please never apologize for asking awesome, cool guests, awesome, cool questions. That's the thing. We're doing the thing. So, all right. So question number, I guess it's 7.5 now. Our next question is, well, we would like to know a little bit more about you, Joanie. Can you share with us some of your, we've talked about your accomplishments, the different boards that you're on, your current work that you're doing. What is it that you're most proud of?
I think I'm most proud that I'm never done. That I constantly want to do something else. I constantly want to keep going. I constantly want to find the next thing, and I want to keep attacking it and finding new ways to make new stuff happen. So every time I feel like I've accomplished a big goal, I'm like, okay, what's next? And I haven't yet had a feeling where I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I think I'm most proud of that and that opportunity that keeps presenting itself to me to keep going and moving forward and finding new ways to move those ideas forward.
Nice. Let's see. Might be skipping around a little bit, but what is something that you would like to maybe accomplish this year? What are some goals that you have either for yourself or for your organization that you have in mind for the coming months, for the end of 2023, or even beyond that?
So this year I'm actually taking a Cornell DEI certification course, and I'm really excited about it. There's a lot of really interesting things that I'm learning. I kind of felt like I knew a lot about DEI, and I'm just blown away by some of the topics that were coming up. I actually had one of my one of my instructors was like, "You actually might know more about this. Can you speak to this a little bit more?" And so that was kind of cool to have that opportunity to share also what we've been doing and some of the programs that Wiki has going on. But there's just been so many great conversations and just meeting new people who are in this DEI space who are creating opportunities around the world. And so that's something that's definitely on my list of things to accomplish this year is getting that certification. The other big piece for us is, we have over 90 programs, workshops, panels, and initiatives. So it's really that focus on mentorship, on finding new ways to break down barriers. And so it's really about identifying those barriers so that we can help support breaking them down. I think last year we really focused on our programs portfolio was kind of like, I wish I had known X at X stage of my career. What is it that you wish you had known that would have completely changed your career trajectory? And then we create like a program or a cheat code around that specific barrier so that we can help the next generation not have to go through it and not have to learn it the hard way. Hey, here's a thing that you should really know, and take that nugget and then you can run with it and move forward with it. So you talked about networking. You talked about how sometimes it's somebody that you knew who offered you an opportunity or somebody who knew somebody that you knew. We talk a lot about networking. There's so many opportunities that you don't know about, but as soon as somebody knows your skill set, they can start sharing it out and telling other people how amazing you are at that specific skill. And then more opportunities kind of come your way. So that was something I did not understand. I collected all the LinkedIn profiles, but I didn't actually know the people. So how do you create those meaningful relationships? And so we talk a lot about, networking is one of those barriers that we didn't understand. I wish I had known that at the beginning of my career. That would have really helped me, as I was looking for a job or as I was moving to a new area, building that community and things like that. So we're definitely trying to identify any barriers, any new X's. I wish I had known X so that we can create new programs around those, and eliminating those for sure. The other thing, I just like to continue to expand my network. I just want to know as many people who are doing awesome things as possible. So I'm excited to be here, and now I know the both of you, and add you to my Rolodex. And there's just so many cool opportunities to highlight people in the industry who are doing these cool, new, innovative things that 15 years ago we never even thought about doing. And we're having these conversations that are sometimes uncomfortable, and we're just throwing it out there, like, hey, this might not be the greatest thing. This might not be, the softest conversation, but we need to have it because somebody needs to hear it and somebody needs to have that opportunity to ask a question that they don't know where else to go to ask that question. So those are kind of the biggest things I'm definitely looking at accomplishing this year.
So, can I ask, you are a superhero. I want to know your origin story. Is there someone, can you go through your Rolodex and say maybe like one or two, as many as people, you know what? As many people who have put you in a position you thought you wouldn't be in or have really helped you?
Oh man. So there were so many times that I don't know if you guys watched um Luca, and they talk about the voice in your head, and they named him Bruno, and they were like, just give him a name and then tell him to be quiet. So they still say Bruno, and then they do the thing that scares him. um I had a lot of Bruno in my head, and he was very loud. And so the people that helped me overcome that voice in my head that told me I shouldn't be there, or I shouldn't be in this room, I shouldn't be speaking up, I shouldn't be trying the thing, those are the people that are definitely part of my origin story. When I worked at, gosh, when I took the job at Motorola, I was like, Motorola's a big name. I don't know if I'm qualified just because it's such a big name. And the person who was hiring at the time actually convinced me to take the job because I had all the skill sets and the qualifications. I knew the job. I was just uncomfortable with putting such a big name on my resume, which doesn't make sense at all. And if somebody told me that now, I would be like, "What's wrong with you?" But at the time, I came from not a lot, and it just felt like it was a lot, and I wasn't sure if I deserved that, and if that was something that I should take up that space. Maybe somebody who was more deserving, who was used to having a lot, would maybe be a better fit for that culture or that team. So I'm really, really grateful for the hiring manager at Motorola for pushing me to get over myself and to get that voice out of my head. When I was working at Motorola, this woman walked into a room and she just owned this board meeting of executives. Just, oh, this whole team. I was nervous sitting there and I didn't even have to talk. I didn't have to do anything but sit there in the corner next to the wall, not even at the table. She walked in, she owned the room, she did the presentation. She said, "Are there any questions?" Nobody had any questions. She left. I was like, dang. We all kind of talked about how amazing she was for a few minutes, and then we all left. And then I went to go fill up my water at the fountain, and she was in the bathroom going, "Oh, okay, it's over." And I was like, "You were nervous? You did not seem nervous." But it was teaching me to put on that face, and then you do your presentation, and then you can go have your panic attack in the bathroom. That was a really powerful thing for me. She is definitely part of my origin story. I do that a lot. Um, and then she talked about how she didn't come from much. I assumed that because she could stand tall and she owned a room, she must have, had a lot of in her upbringing. And we actually had a really amazing conversation, and she became one of my mentors where she said, it's really difficult sometimes to own a room when you don't come from much. And I was just like, there's no way you didn't come from much. And sure enough, we had a very similar upbringing of it's hard to plan out your 5-year plan when you're not even sure if you're gonna have dinner. Like it's just there's a lot of things that you have to kind of reprioritize, and where you're gonna go to college isn't one of them when you're not sure, where the next heat payment's going to come from or what that looks like. And so it was an opportunity to really learn from somebody that they always say you gotta dress for the job you want and not the job you have. It's also kind of like you need to act the way that you want people to perceive you rather than the way you think people currently are seeing you. And it's sort of getting in that mentality. So there's just a lot of things that over the course of my career I've picked up from different people, and having that having that one boss that was like, "Hey, you've got a lot on your plate. You're really overwhelmed. You think it's because you won't stop saying yes to everything? You think maybe if you started trying to say no when people asked you something, how about the next 3 things somebody asks you, you say no to?" Which was really, really hard. And he held me to it. He made sure that the next 3 things somebody asked me to jump into a project to help support, I said no to. And I wanted to because I was a people pleaser. And I constantly wanted to prove that I deserved to be there and that I was the one who would pick up the thing, and I would be that person. I should be there because I was good at my job. When I left that job, they actually had to hire 3 full-time people and 2 part-time people to replace me. I was doing it. I was doing the work, but I always felt like I wasn't doing enough. And so having those people see you and speak out for you is such a powerful thing to look back on and realize. And um, so I think my biggest origin story is realizing the people who were there the whole time, that I didn't maybe see until later on, and then trying to be that for the next person. So I now try to, hey, my team, I'm like, "Excuse me, why are you up at 8 o'clock at night on your computer?" "Well, I'm just watching TV doing this work." "Well, why don't you just do this work tomorrow instead?" And trying to make sure that people are feeling seen and feeling heard and also appreciated, and don't feel like they constantly have to be taking on all of those extra things, and feeling like they can walk into a room and own it and feel respected. And yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Let's see. We've got a couple of questions left. This is like asking what your favorite video game is or what your favorite type of dessert is. But if you had to pick one person, or let's say if you had to pick 1 or 2 people who are currently in the gaming industry, who you admire the most or who you really look up to what they're currently doing, who would they be?
Oh man. Okay. So TL Taylor is one of my favorite people in the entire world. She is she's written about 100 million books. So definitely look her up. She did the first ever LAN event at Stanford University. She teaches at Stanford. She teaches at MIT. She teaches at the Denmark School of Business. She is an instructor. She's an academic. She is all about data. I love big data. One thing you can learn about me real quick, I love big data. I love analyzing data. I love spreadsheets. I love color coordinating information. I love telling stories with numbers. It's my jam. So the fact that she does stuff like that, and then uses that information to tell stories about, esports, and she talks about demographics in esports, and she talks about different opportunities for funding in esports and sponsorship and monetary gain, and like economics in esports. And she started doing this in 2005, 2003. It's amazing to see some of the research she's come up with, some of the data points that she's used to kind of pivot and tell stories within the games industry, and also the people that she's talked to and interviewed, and just kind of taken their stories and put them into these amazing books. So yes, check out Amazon. I think every book she's ever written is on Amazon, but DL Taylor is definitely huge in my head. And then Heather Garrazzo, who is the first woman ever indicted into the Esports Hall of Fame. I was fangirling over her pretty hard when I was doing my capstone project for my master's degree. I found her as I was researching a lot of esports pieces, and I was just like, oh, she's so cool. I accidentally met her at E3. I went to a panel and she was on it, and I couldn't speak to her. I just kept walking around the other side of the room when I saw her because I was so nervous. I actually just had a call with her today. We were talking about different initiatives we're doing in esports now, and we have big plans for this year. And it's just so surreal sometimes to think through some of these opportunities that are now here versus 10 years ago when I was just like, oh my God, this one person is amazing. And then yeah, just Jen O'Neill, another one that I've just looked up to for years. She created a system when she was working at Vicarious Visions to really help with diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. And she created an entire chart to have these standards and to create this equality at work, and really hold her studio accountable for ideas around equity and inclusion, and how they could better themselves. And it was actually adopted throughout several studios after, and she won a leadership award for best places to work. And so I think there's these women that are out there that are doing incredible things that they're like, oh, it's just a small thing, but everybody else is like, you're amazing. So those are my top three.
All right, we're at the end of our segment here with our last question. In closing, what advice would you give to a high school student on how to pursue their dream job in esports?
I would say focus on your dream, and don't worry about how it's going to fit into esports. There are so many opportunities that you might even create. TikTok was not a thing when I was in college. If I had started making tiny short videos and this was my passion, this was my thing, by now it would be that's the job. And so there's everything from being a lawyer to being a physical therapist to being, again, in marketing or in accounting. Find the thing that you love and then find a way to tie it into esports and support an esports team or organization, or collaborate with an esports group. And you will find that way. You will find that tie-in. It exists. It's there. Esports needs all of the support from all of the different, segues and industries. And so there's definitely that opportunity. So focus on what it is that makes you happy, what it is that gets you excited, what it is that gets you out of bed that you want to be working on. That course in college that you're going to that you can't wait to dig your hands into and just have that conversation and be part of that, thought process, or read that book. Whatever it is, and find that way to tie it into esports. Don't jump into esports and then try to find the most, popular or the most obvious career path into esports. That would be my goal for you, because a lot of people didn't realize, even just like physical therapy in esports, it's huge. You're sitting at a desk all day. If there's an opportunity that is there that maybe people don't see yet, you could be the one bringing it to the table. That's an amazing opportunity. So do the thing that you love, and then we'll help you find the tie-in.
All right, awesome. Well, that was the last question that I had for you. Thank you so much again for joining us, Joanie. It has been an absolute pleasure and delight and honor to be able to have you as our guest for this evening. So thank you again for joining us. And thank you, Sam, for joining me as a guest host. I really appreciate you being here as always.
Thank
Appreciate
you for
you
having
too.
me.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you again to guest co-host Sam for joining me tonight. We're just going to combine all the words. And for our guest, Joanie Kraut, we have enjoyed having you on the Hive tonight so very much, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come and chat. We want to thank our partners, ESTV, NFL Alumni, and the Gamehurst. Without their support, we would not be able to have our weekly show. We also want to thank our producer, Nick, and our moderators, Catherine and Bayou. And to stay updated on our upcoming topics and our information and just be able to find us everywhere and see what we're doing next, be sure to follow us on social media. You can find us everywhere as Esports CCP. Next Friday, we're going to be back with our monthly fireside chat with Sam and DX talking about all there is to absorb in gaming news. I do want to bring up one last thing before we wrap up for the evening. I would just like to point out that today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. We want to take some time just to bring attention to that and make sure that as you think about that, as you think about what that means for someone reflecting on that in history, that some of the most important things that we can do just as community members and as to our fellow people outside of gaming and in the larger scale is that truth and humanity are so important in every aspect of our lives. So I just want to close out with that. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. I want to wish you all a wonderful weekend. Please stay warm. It's very chilly out there. Play some games, and I'll see everyone next Friday. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much.